see, I think we're online. First time doing this, so bear with me for a minute. Okay, there we go. I'm checking this on my TV before I actually start anything else. Make sure everything's in tip-top shape. And then we can get started on the old wrestling chat. Let's see. What's the delay like? And then we can get started on the old wrestling chat. Let's see. What's the delay like? Okay, I'm pretty much going to bring this down to no sound. Once I know it's all good. And at least I've got one viewer. Bring this down to no sound. Once I know it's all good. And at least I've got one viewer. There we go. All right. Alright, what up? We are good to go. My name's Robbo, and welcome to my first Just Chatting stream. Alright, so this one's all about pro wrestling, right? I love my pro wrestling. It pretty much fuels me. Check the shirt, wearing Wrestlemania, baby. Alright, we're going to talk about Mania as we go through. I've got lots of things to talk about, and I've made some notes. I'm taking this seriously, my first Just Chatting stream, but honestly, I don't talk that much in my regular day-to-day life. I wasn't sure if I could carry a Just Chatting stream just off my memory and off my improv, so I've made a few little notes. Let's check it out here. A few little notes, which I'm going to refer to at different points through the show. Alright, so suppose I should have a drink first. It is Boxing Day. I have got here, is that the right side of the, it is not the right side. This is a Jack Daniels glass, I believe. Where's the actual Jack Daniels logo? Maybe I've got the wrong glass. Oh no, here it is. But 100% has the Jack Daniels logo. So to drink a bit. There we go, Jack Daniels. That's what we're enjoying on this Boxing Day. So yeah, I wanted to try a few different things. I'm working towards Twitch affiliate. So I've gotten the followers. You need 50 followers for affiliate, and I've got 70. You need to stream 7 days in a 30-day period. This is day number 7. You need to stream, I think, 8 hours, and I've streamed about 12 as I've gotten back into streaming the past couple of weeks. It's school holidays, which means I'm off for the summer. I'm not a student, for those that don't know. I am a teacher. I work on a casual basis. I'm just on call. I work at different schools around my local area, but it's as pretty standard. Work slowed down a lot in the end of the year. I got work through to November, and then December I didn't get any work at all. But the thing with being casual is that you're always on call, so I've got to get up every day and treat it like I'm working, and then when I'm not, I just bum around, I guess, and watch wrestling and maybe write about wrestling. I'm sort of involved in the wrestling business now as a writer, which is pretty fucking awesome, because if there's something I love almost as much as wrestling, it is writing, and I've often thought about being a writer, and this is my first sort of avenue into that. So I always had this idea that, okay, I can never be a pro wrestler. I've got cerebral palsy. I can't physically do it. I've seen so many videos on how they bump and how they do things, and it's like I understand the mechanics behind it, but if you think my crippled body can do a flip bump, you are sorely mistaken. I can kind of take a back bump, but I've also got back problems. So, me being involved in wrestling in a physical capacity just was never going to happen. I had this wild pipe dream that I would work for WWE as a creative writer. One element of writing I've always enjoyed is the creative side, and there's been so many times I've watched Raw or SmackDown and thought to myself, I could book a much better show than this. I've been to shows where I've thought, yep, I'm watching a show as a fan, and I'm still critiquing it in my head. I'm still thinking I could write a better show than this. But then you hear all the backstage stories about how badly the writers are treated in WWE, especially how they have those last minute script changes. You hear a lot about the shoot interviews where writers had all these fantastic ideas and they tell you the ideas they had, so you know that are bullshitting, and you know they've been shot down because Vince didn't get it. It's like I was talking to Andy Coyne about this the other week about Paul Burchill, who was a great UK wrestler. He had, I guess, a cup of coffee in WWE, and he had a pirate gimmick. It was pretty timely because of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies that were big then in like 2006, 2007. But Vince McMahon didn't understand the pirate gimmick. He didn't really get what it was all about. So he thought it was stupid. So even though it looked like it had potential, it was scrapped after a couple of months. And yeah, there's so many pitches for great ideas you hear that just go by the wayside. I mean, if you're a long-time fan of wrestling, you know that there's been a lot of stories and a lot of characters, a lot of wrestlers with great potential, but in practice, they've fallen by the wayside. A couple of more recent ones in the last decade. The Nexus, when the Nexus debuted, I was actually on a sabbatical from wrestling. I didn't watch for a few years. And when the Nexus debuted, that was such an exciting angle that I actually tuned in and watched it. And I thought that was really cool. That was really innovative. It was edgy. The product at the time in 2010, it was very kid-friendly, very, very PG, Virgin on G. But the Nexus debut really brought some spice to the product. So I thought, okay, maybe I can give this another chance. And then we got to SummerSlam 2010. It was Team WWE versus Team Nexus. And Super Cena, John Cena, just squashed everyone pretty much single-handedly. And so that was a big booking blunder on that. So those kind of creative decisions kind of, you know, make me wonder sometimes about the creative process. Same with CM Punk when he did the pipe bomb, the Summer of Punk. That was an awesome story. CM Punk was red hot as a character and a wrestler. And then SummerSlam again, Kevin Nash gets involved and screws CM Punk, and CM Punk becomes this bit part player for a while and takes a backseat to Triple H and Kevin Nash, who are about a decade, or in Nash's case, about 15 years past his prime at that point. So it was just all a bit of a mess. So I've always thought I could be a writer, maybe not a WWE writer, but now I actually do some wrestling writing. I actually write reviews of shows. I was doing it for a while as my own little hobby. I would review WWE shows on my own little blog I had called The Arena, which may or may not come back into play at some point. But I've recently joined up with the Snapmares media team. I'll actually put no one's in chat at the moment. If people join chat, I'll put the Snapmares link in the chat so people can access that. So what I do on that is I write, again, a bunch of reviews and sometimes news articles on not WWE so much, There's other writers on the site that deal with that. I write reviews on AEW, which is the new number 2 sort of promotion to WWE. I think they're overtaking WWE in some cases, at least as far as the quality of the product and the watchability of the week-to-week shows. So I review AEW Dynamite and AEW pay-per-views. I skip AEW Dark. It's their supplementary show, kind of like Sunday Night Heat or WWE Main Event now. I did review it once, but especially in the pandemic, Dark's this really bloated 2-hour show. It's just full of squash matches. And when you think back to the days of Heat and Velocity and all those shows that really revolved around squash matches, they were about 45 minutes long, with the commercials bumping it to an hour on broadcast television. But watching 2 hours uninterrupted of squash matches on YouTube is just not a fun time, so I avoid Dark. I watch Dynamite religiously and review it, and I also watch the pay-per-views and review them as well. And in addition, I review PWA, which is Aussie Wrestling promotion in Sydney. They do a fantastic job. I'd put the quality of PWA up with any promotion in the world. Even production-wise, they've come such a long way. I started watching them a couple of years ago. They were still in RSLs. Then they moved to the Max Watts concert venue. Their production somehow took a massive leap forward, and it all looks so polished and professional now. And I've said in a recent review, and I truly believe this, it wouldn't look out of place on broadcast television. You could put it on after the project or something, it would look fantastic on Aussie primetime television. I wish for that to happen for Aussie Wrestling. Aussie Wrestling should be a lot bigger than it is. It's had humble beginnings. It's still under the radar, but it's getting more exposure. There's more and more Aussie wrestlers making their mark in WWE and other promotions. So you've got, in WWE, you've got the Iconics, of course, Buddy Murphy. We had Emma in the past. In NXT, we've got Indy Hartwell, Bronson Reed, and of course Rhea Ripley, who's probably one of the more prolific people in WWE, NXT. And then there's Shane Thorne, or Slapjack now in Retribution on Raw. And yeah, there's a big Aussie presence in WWE. Oh, Toni Storm as well, even though she's Kiwi, she's built from the Gold Coast, so we'll claim her. But yeah, it's cool seeing people like Bronson Reed and Indy Hartwell on NXT, because I've watched those guys live on Aussie indie shows and seen them come up from there to being on NXT, to being on the USA Network on the third brand of WWE, which quality-wise is better than Raw and SmackDown most weeks anyway. So that's something I take a lot of pride in as a Aussie wrestling fan. So with lots of drink here, because it's a just chatting stream, I'm talking a lot. I should probably slow myself down. I know I tend to talk too fast. That's something I've always done, and I've had to work to do a lot better in the speed and clarity of my voice. It's improved over the years, but every once in a while I get a bit too excited, and when I talk about wrestling, I definitely get excited. So I'll talk too fast, I'll mumble, I will just trip over my words. So I'll try my best to not do that and just slow down and chill. Hakuna Matata, all that stuff. Alright, I've got the Jack Daniels, and I've also got water. Like water, be like water, my friend. And that's a big thing I do at work as well, because as a teacher I need to talk a lot at work, and it's probably more than I talk in my day-to-day life. Especially now as an adult, if I'm not working, I'm not talking to anyone because all my friends are at work, and then I'm not, so I just sit here by myself and watch TV and play games. It's a good life. But all that to say, when I'm at work, I talk more than usual. The old voice box tends to go a little bit, so I'm going to need some water to keep me going so I don't have a shot voice on this here Boxing Day. Alright, so on that note, a bit of water. It's hot in here, but a bit sort of worried, or I don't want you to put the fan on because I'm aware it'll make a lot of noise. It's actually, when I started the stream, I realised that the clock on my wall was making a shit ton of noise. Normally when I stream like video games and things, normally I tend to actually take the clock and put it in my spare room so the tick 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 doesn't come over the sound on my stream. So I've done that again here and now. Alright, I'm loving this last haircut I got. So I got a haircut for obviously Christmas, and looking kind of fresh. I got the sides all done nice. And there we go, it's looking pretty sweet. I'm going to try and fix up maybe the beard here, as the lining could be done a little bit better. Yeah, so Wrestlemania shirt, I'll get to that very soon. I want to try and deal with talking about wrestling in chronological order, where it started for me, why I love wrestling, and I guess just all the experiences I've had over the years as a wrestling fan. I've had a lot of great ones, I've had some bad ones, but all in all, pro wrestling has been a constant in my life since 1998. Little old Robbo, little Mick he was 8 years old, or maybe even 7 going on 8, depending on what time in the year it was. My birthday's in June, so right now I am 30 and a half. I am getting old as fuck, guys. On the plus side, when I shave, I tend to get ID'd a lot, so I guess I still look young. Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Even on a just chatting stream, I can't resist. I love my wrestling, I love my writing. I also love MMA, UFC, and I love a bit of karaoke. My last stream before this was a Twitch Sing stream, where Twitch has their own karaoke app. But unfortunately, it's shutting down at the end of this year. We've got about 4 or 5 more days of Twitch Sings, and then it goes forever. So I might do one more stream. Got a few views last time. I got a new follower out of it. I had a dude from America watching me at 4 a.m. in the morning from America, and that blew my mind. For someone to sit there at 4 a.m. and go, okay, I'm going to watch Twitch, and to watch me, some random Australian, do some really shitty karaoke, that made me feel cool. I do this as a bit of a social outlet, and I do it to try and entertain people. My hope is, as I mentioned, I am disabled and I can't work full time. I'd love to get this as a side hustle. I'm not the greatest gamer, I'm not the greatest entertainer, but I want to give this a go. I want to learn and get better and do things so that I can actually maybe have this as a side hustle, make a bit of extra money on the side, being a Twitch streamer. I know it can be done. There's a chick in Warrawong who's friends with my cousin, who has a massive following, well, relative to me anyway, a massive following. Mads Katie, I think her name is, on Twitch. Super hot blonde chick, which probably helps her cause. But she's got everything going on. She's got YouTube, she's got Twitch, she's got Instagram, she's got TikTok, and she's doing a lot of great stuff in all those social media arenas. So I know it can be done, and that's like an encouraging sign for me. It shows that, okay, it can be done. On that note, I always think it's so hard to attain things. Being an Australian, we're so separated from America. Everything seems so easily attainable. It's so easy to be an American and all those millions of people and have that reach. Coming from such a small country like Australia, you think, it's very hard to do. And I do believe that it is. But being hard to do doesn't mean it's impossible. If it was super easy, everyone would do it. But there's people that show that even though we come from this little island nation down under in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, it can be done. Someone like Rhea Ripley is probably the biggest example. Not only did Rhea Ripley come from Australia, she's from Adelaide. And if you've ever been to Australia, Adelaide is like the Utah of Australia. It's this like nothing city. It's the most boring place on earth. Basically, the only reason I go there is that there's someone, a very close friend to me, lives down there. I go to see her. I don't go to see Adelaide. Like, fuck Adelaide, honestly. It's boring as shit. But, Ria comes from Adelaide, the city of churches. And, the odds of her making it, as opposed to someone from Sydney, are even more slim. She's one of the biggest Australian stars in WWE altogether at the moment. She got that Wrestlemania match with Charlotte Flair. I feel like if it wasn't for the pandemic forcing a lot of changes and a lot of shifts in perception, I feel like Rhea Ripley would be a much bigger star. Obviously, at Wrestlemania in the Performance Center, she ended up losing and, sort of slid down in relevancy for a while. But she's still a big deal. She had a good showing at War Games. War Games! And, she's great in that environment. And I actually saw today she put out a Christmas post where she's kind of posing wearing a bum bag in a similar way to that iconic photo of The Rock wearing a bum bag back in the 90s. And what blew my mind was that The Rock saw it and responded. Rhea Ripley's from Adelaide, Australia, boring old place. She's significantly younger than me. She's 23 or 24 and I'm 30. So for her to, have all the success in WWE and get acknowledged by The Rock, who is his top of my bucket list as far as meeting people. I had like a list of like 5 people I really wanted to meet. I'll see if I can remember all 5. So there was two I've actually met. So there was Chris Jericho was one. I met Chris Jericho during my Wrestlemania experience. That was amazing. Jessica Negri, I was always a big fan of Jessica Negri. And then 2 of the others were The Rock and Neil Patrick Harris. And the final one was Eminem. I'm a huge rap fan. Meeting Eminem would be the ultimate. I'm actually not sure what my top one would be. Was it between meeting The Rock or meeting Eminem? Maybe The Rock, just because I feel like The Rock's more social. Whereas Eminem, I mean, he's loosened up over the years, but I've seen a lot of his interviews. He's sometimes a bit awkward. Whereas The Rock's just, he's full of energy, he's full of presence. No matter where he is, what he's doing, what time of day it is. The Rock seems like a class act, and all success and fame doesn't seem to go to his head. So I'd love to meet him, I'd love to have a conversation with him. I feel like I could have a real, genuine conversation with The Rock. I feel like just about everyone could have a genuine, real conversation with The Rock. That's not me bigging myself up saying, I could chat with The Rock, because I'm such a great guy, such a great personality. No, The Rock is one of those dudes that I reckon they can just chat with anyone, regardless of what you're into and, what kind of person you are. He can meet that energy and match that energy and bring something great out of you. So for Rhea Ripley to be acknowledged by The Rock, even if it was by an Instagram comment, I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of jealousy there. I was like, damn. It's kind of like the Justin Bieber thing. I always feel like Justin Bieber got a lot of hate, and I feel like a big portion of that was, obviously he's this pop star, and it was like he's been it's like a media pet project where he was pushed into celebrity status. But I feel like honestly a big part of it was his age. Justin Bieber, when he became famous, was 16 years old. And for him to blow up and become a huge celebrity and make millions, there'd be a lot of people jealous of that. I say that because I was pretty jealous of that. I'm 4 years older than Bieber. I was 20, and seeing this little 16-year-old kid just make money upon money upon money, I was like, damn that kid, So yeah, me and pro wrestling. I've gone on a few tangents here. As it turns out, I can talk pretty well when it comes to wrestling and wrestling adjacent talk, I guess. It's something I love, it's something I'm passionate about. I was talking to someone earlier today, it was about being an introvert, and I guess I am an introvert to an extent, but it all comes down to comfort level, so I guess I could be more of an ambivert. Sometimes I'll be really sheltered and barely talk to anyone, sometimes I'll talk your ear off. It all depends on my comfort levels, and I think that's part of why I want to stream and do well at it as well. I feel like it's something I can use to become socially better. I'm always looking to improve myself in different ways. if I can improve socially by being a streamer, like I'm talking right now, I don't think I've got any viewers. I've got one, but that's because I've got myself still on the TV as my like test thing. So I've gotten used to just talking to myself and feeling more comfortable with it. When I first started streaming, I started getting more into games about 3 years ago. I probably started streaming about 2 years ago. And I would feel so awkward talking to no one. I can't talk to no one. It just feels so awkward and weird. And now I'm just like, whatever. Someone will come in, someone will see my energy and join, hopefully. And, it's always good to bounce off people. But, that's part of the reason I came in. I picked topics. The overarching topic is wrestling. I've invited everyone through my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to join me and chat about wrestling, because I always feel like if I get the opportunity to talk wrestling, I will definitely talk someone's ear off. I rarely get the opportunity, and when I do, I try and make the most of it, but I know that a lot of my friends and family don't like wrestling, so even if they do indulge me in some wrestling conversation, it's out of sheer politeness. I can't get into it and talk wrestling for hours. Like I would love to, I'm actually treating this as a beta test. I would love to have a podcast about wrestling. I see everyone doing podcasts, and I could talk wrestling for hours on end on different topics. I'm going to have like a little kind of sampler thing tonight of talking about different topics, and I will go through and touch on different topics, and I could always expand on them for future Just Chattings or future podcasts, really depending on how this goes, how long it goes, and if there's any interest in me doing more. I can see myself being, up, out and about, getting more Jack Daniels. I was so tired, and I still am. I was so tired earlier today. My Christmas Eve was super busy. I went to my mum's and stayed the night. She was hosting Christmas, but she's very sick, so her hosting, I had to help various points of different things. We had to put a basketball hoop up, we had to set tables and organise food. Then the next day we had the whole family there, and then it was an uncharacteristically late lunch, and we didn't get everyone gone until about 4 p.m. And then I had to go to my friend's place and have dinner over there with a few of my close friends that I consider family. It was a great time, but it was really, really tiring. I'm not used to that on a physical level and on a social introvert level. That much activity and socializing during the day. I went down to shops a couple of times to get different things. I played basketball with my cousins. It was draining, and then got to about 11 p.m. at my friend's. I left, and the idea was to go to my mum's, pick up my presents and food from earlier in the day, and then just go home. I was that tired, I ended up staying over, had this sort of fragmented sleep, and then I left at about 1 p.m. because I'd been up and down all night. I finally got a good block of sleep from about 8 a.m. to like 12, 1-ish. Got some things done. I went down, I've got to get my car fixed. I got some oil, needs to be put through the engine. Then I went to the club, little Boxing Day tradition, go to the pokies and have a go there. And I actually won some money. Came out $500 richer, which basically pays for Christmas. So Christmas this year was free. Success. And I still need to catch up with my stepmom and little brother, give them their presents, but I needed tonight at least to recharge and do my own thing. And if this is as active as my night gets, then I'm happy. That would be the ideal. And then chill tomorrow, and depending on how I'm feeling, I might hit my stepmom up to see if she wants to do dinner tomorrow night, or if I still need a bit more time, maybe Monday night on an actual public holiday night. One of those 2 nights, and that'll take care of Christmas for 2020, and we look forward to 2021. Alright, so I might as well just get into the story. I wanted to wait until I had some viewers before I got into the real story of how everything started with me and pro wrestling. But we're half an hour in. We haven't got viewers yet. Let me just check my socials real quick before I'll launch into the story really quickly. If we end up, if there's no one there, I'll just say fuck it and go ahead and stream. Just want to check my socials, like Facebook, Twitter, etc. See if anyone's jumped in on anything. I did put it up on my story as well as making separate posts. No new viewers there. I've always noticed, like, that's the thing, I love wrestling, I love it so much, but I'll post different things, and if it's wrestling related, it barely gets any traction. There's no fucks given at all if I make a wrestling post. And then I'll make a general post about just my life, and I'll get 20, 30 odd likes. I'm like, people are there, people care about me, they just don't care about pro wrestling, which is fine, but pro wrestling is such a big part of my life. It's a big part of my identity, and it has been from a very young age. So Facebook, none. Let's go check Instagram. Fun fact, the Aussie Arrow Carl Fletcher, his prior ring name was Instagram, spelt with the name Graham. Okay. Is that a real person? Did someone follow me and like my photo back on stream? Okay, he's a wrestling fan, looks like. Could be an American, he's wearing an NFL cap and he's got a little WWE championship on his shoulder. Alright. Man, my Instagram is basically just wrestling shit and hot chicks. I'm gonna show you real quick. Check it. That ass though. Yeah. At this point, my Instagram is basically softcore porn. I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm a single guy. I'm pretty fucking lonely. I've got friends, but as far as women, romantic relationships, just doesn't happen, eh? So, Instagram's my outlet. Instagram and the hub. We all know about the hub. Right, so pro wrestling. I started 1998. I was 8 years old. My best friend at the time, good old Jason, he was big into wrestling then, and he introduced me to what WWE, or then the WWF, was all about. He lent me 2 VHS tapes. That's how old I am. A VHS, not a DVD, not a Blu-ray, a VHS tape. One of them was a Shawn Michaels HBK compilation. I don't remember that heaps vividly, but I remember seeing stuff on Mudding matches like the Shawn Michaels vs. Mankind, like for Mind Games, Shawn Michaels vs. Vader. I feel like those matches were on there. And also The Undertaker and 1998 would have been later in the year, because I have a vivid memory of the Kane feud being covered. So I definitely remember the Inferno match from Unforgiven, Undertaker vs. Kane, because obviously as an 8-year-old kid, seeing, these massive monsters chokeslam each other and flames come up off the ring was just an amazing visual that sticks in your head. It just can't not, So there's my 2 first exposures to pro wrestling. And as a side note, one of my first memories of seeing a full-fledged match and being engrossed in just a singular match, I remember seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Dude Love from Over the Edge in 1998. That was the one that had every gimmick under the sun. I think it's the quintessential Attitude Era match. You had Vince as special guest referee. You had Pat Patterson as the ring announcer, Gerald Briscoe as a timekeeper. Then you had Undertaker at ringside as like an enforcer, trying to keep the Stooges and Vince and Shaq. I think Shane got involved at some point, because Dude Love was the corporate champion, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was this redneck that the authority that the man didn't want as WWF champion. So that was engrossing drama, just seeing this action of these 2 big dudes beating the shit out of each other. They battled all through the arena, as Attitude Era matches do. The set for the pay-per-view was filled with old cars. I think they had some Briscoe Body Shop tie-in there. And, Stone Cold threw Mick Foley, Dude Love, onto these cars, and, Foley took some great bumps as always. And then Austin ultimately overcame the odds. Well, spoiler alert, but it's from 1998, York and Deal. Stone Cold overcame the odds. He knocked everyone out. Undertaker got involved and chokeslammed, I think, Patterson through a table. Rest in peace, Pat. He passed away, last week or the week before. Great mind for the wrestling business. And so there's all this calamity, and I think Vince got knocked out somehow. And Austin gets Dude Love with a stunner or something, I'm pretty sure. But I remember he uses Vince McMahon's limp hand to count the 1, 2, 3. It's a match I haven't seen in a while. Should probably go watch it again. But that whole sequence, all that drama, all the extra bells and whistles of WWF pro wrestling, sports entertainment, all the hallmarks of that were in that match, and that's something I just, this larger than life characters, this drama, this action, conflict of people fighting, a primal idea of violence. And yeah, that sort of just went from there, became an obsession. And I grew up pretty poor, so I didn't watch, I started watching in 1998. Wasn't watching Raw and SmackDown every week. We didn't have access to that. We didn't have pay TV to watch Raw and SmackDown every week. I didn't see Raw and SmackDown for a couple of years after, to be honest. Since we only had free-to-air TV, the only show I could watch was WWF Superstars. That aired at midnight. And again, I'm in year 2, second grade. I'm an 8-year-old. So what would happen is Mum would let me watch wrestling for a bit there, and then she'd stop for a while. But when she was letting me watch WWF Superstars, I'd go to bed at 8 p.m. She would wake me up around 12. I'd watch the hour of WWF Superstars and then go back to bed. And it worked. I was a great student. I smashed it, whatever. And yeah, that was my exposure. I don't remember too much about it. Obviously, they recapped Raw a little bit on Superstars, and had the squash matches, the lower card matches. I do remember seeing the Brood were on there, so that would have been going into 1999. I would have been 3rd grade, and we had the Bloodbaths, the Brood of the Bloodbaths. Remember, they got The Rock and they got Deborah. Those stick out in my head. Again, as a kid, it's all about the big visuals, the fire of the Inferno, the Bloodbaths. It all just And then, of course, there was points where my mum said, you can't watch this, it's too inappropriate. Attitude Era, of course, they pushed the envelope big time. Funnily enough, it wasn't so much the violence that made my mum stop me watching, it was the sexuality, which I find kind of funny because, now all I hear about is oh, why don't you have someone to settle down with? Oh, when are you going to give me grandbabies? Why didn't you have a girlfriend or wife? And I'm like, one, it's not by choice, but then she didn't want me to see scantily clad women, in wrestling. So I'm like, you're trying to block me from seeing sexy women? Did you want me to go to the other side, bat feeding out the team, But no, seriously, I didn't understand that it was inappropriate to see at that age. I kid a lot. But yeah, so same deal with, I wasn't allowed to watch Simpsons for a while, South Park. My mom was pretty strict. She's cool now. She was cool then, but she always worried about me being raised right and doing the right things. I never got in any major trouble, and that's a credit to my mum. She raised me as a single mum. And yeah, wrestling was something I just loved. Just everything about it, theatrical, drama, action, some comedy. I didn't know at first that it wasn't real. I mean, as a kid, you just, whatever, I watched it. But the revelation that it was all fake, it didn't bother me at all. I found out about the same time. So I guess I watched it for a year or two just believing it was real, I guess. I remember talking with Jason about it, still a friend that introduced me to wrestling, and it was in 2000. I remember this when he was 10 years old, and I was talking about Mankind, and I'm just like, oh man, Mankind is really crazy, right? And Jason just gives me this look, and he's like, you know what's fake, right? And I just went, oh, okay, and that was it. And then I just treated it like any other show I watched. At the time, I loved Pokemon and loved Dragon Ball Z. So to me, I guess wrestling was almost like a live-action Dragon Ball Z. and I still love Dragon Ball Z in a similar vein to wrestling, not quite as much, but still way up there. I've got a lot of Dragon Ball Z memorabilia. Bianca, the friend that lives in Adelaide, I was talking about. Love her, she's amazing. Every Christmas, was giving me Dragon Ball Z stuff. And so I've got this collection of things. Last Christmas, I got Crystal Dragon Balls, amazing. I've got like Shenron figurines, a Trunks figurine. She's really good to me. And, I've got all those things. And then I've also got wrestling stuff. So, quick tangent, because I've gone on like 5 million tangents through tonight. I don't know where it's over there, right? Lens is over there. Oh yeah, because I'm looking away here. I had this problem with, let's see if I can swap. There we go. Alright, I had this problem when I was at Shannon's last night. She loves to take photos, and I'm always like, where do I look? I don't really know where to look. And she's, it was always something I struggled with. Alright, so we're coming over here to see some of my memorabilia stuff. So you see all my different fandoms. We've got Dragon Ball Z, we've got Harry Potter, little Pokemon now, little Hulk. And my wrestling stuff here, we've got the little figurines, little John Cena, Undertaker, circa like Wrestlemania 30, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. My buddy got me a bunch of little figurines as one Christmas present. And then the big replica championship. So the WWE Championship, I got that when I was over in America. We're going to bring that over with me. And yeah, it was one of those things that was like a bucket list thing. I was like, I should buy a championship. Even though there's like a stereotype of fucking wrestling fans buying replica championships. I'm like, fuck it. It's like a big ornament in my home, and something I'm really proud of. I guess proud of is the word. Did spend a lot of money on it. I did tell my nan that I spent a lot less money on it than I did. Cost about $600, and I think I said to nan that it really cost like $200. And like Eddie Guerrero, guess what, Holmes? I lied. But yeah, so 1998 is when it all began. 2000s when I found out it was all fake, and really, I had like no reaction. It was like, oh, okay. And that was literally around the same time I found out Santa wasn't real. I guess I was a bit of a late bloomer, around 10, finding out Santa wasn't real. Mum always says she just barely got one extra year out of me, because I started to question things. I'm like, oh, okay, And then when I found out Santa wasn't real, it was just like, I was like, hey Mum, is Santa real? And she's kind of like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Finding out things are real or fake doesn't bother me. It was all about immersion and entertainment. I'm like, I still like this thing. Do I really care that it's not real? Nah. I still enjoy it. It's like boobs. I still enjoy boobs. The boobs are fake. I don't care. They're still boobs. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, boobs. Real, fake. Fuck it. Stick them in my mouth and let's go. I did make that drink a bit strong too. See, yeah. So that was the start of my pro wrestling adventure. Also, I found out about Wrestling 98, like I said, but I also had the Attitude Era sticker book, and that was a big thing. And thinking about the time periods, would have been 1999. The Attitude Era video game came out, PS1. I had that. That was my first wrestling game. That was really ahead of its time. You think about pro wrestling games, and it was really good. Attitude Era 1 was really good. It was, you could have Create Arena, Create a Superstar, and you had tons of customization options, which you think like, even games after that weren't quite as good at customization. Let me just check this here. Oh yeah, CC Viper, I think streaming tonight as well. Alright, let's see, over here. Pull back a bit, yeah. Okay, I'm seeing on the delay. When I'm looking up at the computer, y'all can see my double chin. Need to lose weight. I would blame Christmas, but my Decembers have been a bit slack and just eating shit food and not exercised as much. really need to get my body into gear for next year. I'm feeling stronger, but I still need to drop the weight. So my abs are getting stronger, my legs are getting stronger. So when this all comes to a head and, I go to work next year, I should be stronger, and hopefully the fat's stripped away a bit, my belly's gone down. The belly's a little bit Kamala-ish at the moment. Ugh. But we're gonna get it going. I got earbuds for Christmas, and I'm gonna be using them a lot. I'm gonna go for walks and have the earbuds in, and I'm gonna be like a rock, due to work, all that stuff. I think due to work is a Cody Rhodes saying, but and that's gonna be my summer. So yeah, Attitude Era, a sticker book. We had the game and we had the sticker book, and I collected. You buy them from the newsagent. You buy these little $1 packs of the WWF Attitude stickers. I'm pretty sure I filled up the book. I don't think Mum kept it. I remember asking about it a while ago because my mum's a big memories person, right? She keeps all these weird things. She even keeps all my old leg braces that I wore. I've got cerebral palsy. She kept all the leg braces. But she didn't keep the Attitude Era sticker book. Attitude Era sticker book. She just, in her mind, that's not a big deal. She doesn't care about that, which is hard. I love wrestling. My mom, she loves me to death, but doesn't give a single shit about wrestling. So, and that goes for a lot of my friends too. Although I've converted one, and I'll talk about that shortly. I always love converting my friends, because once you get it, it's like for those that get it, no explanations needed. For those that don't get it, no explanation will do. It's one of those weird things. I think pro wrestling, I think people struggle to reconcile the idea, well, on TV it's a sport, it's like a sport, so you can't have a fake sport, that just goes against the rules. And I think for me, I've never been a sporty person, or wasn't able to participate in sports, so because I couldn't participate, I didn't enjoy it. That was just like a world that was locked off to me, I felt. But because WWF was so much larger than life, like none of us were getting into WWF, so I didn't feel like I was being locked out of this world. Like NRL is big in New South Wales and Australia. I couldn't get into that. I loved it. I enjoyed it. Same sort of idea of like the aggression and physicality. I like that kind of thing, but it was just weird having to disconnect where I couldn't be part of it. Like all my friends were in the footy team at school, and I couldn't be. They made me the water boy, which was a really nice touch. My friend Jason, again, one who got me into wrestling, his dad was like the coach for the footy team. I was a water boy, and so I was included in the team that way, which was really nice. It was nice to be included in that way, but I always felt this disconnect from real sports. So the whole fake sport thing doesn't bother me. It's just I watch things to be entertained. Wrestling entertains me. Cool. The fact that it's fake sport or it's fake, I don't care. Even now, when people say it's fake, whether it's adults, children, whatever, I'm like, well, Star Wars is fake, The Avengers is fake, you like that? Oh, but that's different. Why is it different? Well, it just is. Like, they can't give you a legitimate reason. It's just, sport can't be fake. That's about as far as it goes. So, yeah, love my WWE. And yeah, so it took me a couple of years to actually be able to watch wrestling and have access to it. Beyond WWF Superstars, we relied on the video shop, which again, VHS tapes. I am old as fuck. I'd go to the video shop, Civic Video, Video Easy, and I'd rent whatever VHS tapes they had. Most of them were like Attitude Era tapes, and the thing was, everything's pretty readily available now, whether it's streaming, but even going back a few years when DVDs were a thing, more of a thing, they still are around, I guess, but DVDs and things come out really quick now, right? Back in the day when I was getting videos from the video shop to watch wrestling, you would be waiting months upon months to get a sort of new release video for WWF shows. I vividly remember watching Wrestlemania 17 on a VHS tape, and I feel like I saw that about 9 months after it happened, or close to, because Wrestlemania 17 was in 2001. I remember seeing it at the end of 2001, and I remember seeing it at the end of 2001. AEW for life. Hey, I can't disagree. I do love AEW as well. Like, I went to Wrestlemania. I really want to go to an AEW show. I watch AEW Dynamite every week and the pay-per-views. I write reviews on them. I've actually got wearing a Wrestlemania shirt because I went to Wrestlemania. I've actually got just over here an AEW one. So I've got over here a little AEW hoodie that I bought. So it's like one of those sleeveless hoodies. It's this lightweight material. It's going to be like a workout singlet for me as I try and lose this little bit of the belly. Yeah, but AEW has been fucking awesome, right? What do you enjoy most about AEW? What's like your favorite wrestler, favorite matches? What are you into? Because like I love it all pretty much. Jericho is one of my favorites, but you know, let me know what you're into. Because pretty much wrestling's good. You know, it's great. You know, and AEW, they rarely miss the mark. They really do. Yeah, so I was going through my history of watching WWE. I started in '98, went through the '90s and 2000s, and I had to rely on this video shop because we were poor. That's how I watched wrestling. Cody, yeah, I can't disagree. Cody's pretty great. Jericho is my favorite, but Cody's right up there too. I think learning the WWE system, so they know how to do big time pro wrestling, but in AEW, they don't have the same shackles that WWE have. So guys like Cody, guys like Jericho, guys like Moxley, they can take what they learned in WWE, the refinement of pro wrestling, but they're not bound by the creative restrictions, and they can do what they want to do, what they feel is good pro wrestling. And they nailed it. I loved the very first event, Double or Nothing. Cody versus Dustin was probably the best match they've all done in the entire AEW history so far. And, you know, he's had a lot of great performances too. I've loved seeing him as TNT champion. The match of Darby Allin's, or the match of Darby Allin, the dog collar match with Brody Lee, Cody Rhodes, 100%. He is a legit top tier wrestler. I wonder how they'll go back with Cody Rhodes, because he said about never challenging for the AEW championship again. I can't see that sticking, as like never challenges for the whole history of his career in AEW. So I don't know how they're going to walk that back. I don't know if he's going to stay as a babyface and something makes him snap and then he must challenge. Or maybe he just turns heel, and as a heel and as the EVP, he can just say, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want, I'm Cody motherfucking Rhodes, and I'm going to just do what I want. Yeah, 100%, yeah. Easiest way to do it, right? And the easiest way to get heel heat, like just not be that man of honor and I'll do what I want, I'm the boss, I help run this company. And, I'd love to see it. He's doing a good job as a babyface. I thought he was teasing being a heel. That's what I thought Cody Rhodes was going for with Darby Allin. Yeah, so Monster heel, that's interesting because I loved the dog collar match of Brody Lee. I think that's one of the best Dynamite matches they've had. I think it's either the dog collar match or the Pac vs. Omega Iron Man match. One of those two matches is the best match Dynamite's had. So Cody and Brody Lee, a lot of great chemistry. Or they could have Cody versus Jake Hager, Cody versus Wardlow. That would be pretty awesome. So but it all started, I think all of us, do you watch WWE at all, or is it just AEW for you? Because I feel like, we all didn't become wrestling fans in May 2019. I think everyone's, regardless of what you feel about WWE now, and believe me, I understand not being a fan of WWE at the moment, we all started there pretty much. Unless you're really old school and maybe you watched WCW back in the day or something like that, we all started on WWE. Yeah, it's WWE. I feel like it's hard to watch now. They haven't quite, and I think that's COVID as well. I think they started a year strong. I think the Royal Rumble, 2020 Royal Rumble, I think it's one of the best Rumble pay-per-views and matches that they've done in years. But then COVID hit, ruined WrestleMania, and they just couldn't get it right. They had like 6 months of no crowds or rent a crowds from NXT to do their shows. And wrestling without crowds, it just doesn't work. It's like wrestling without a crowd is like simulated MMA. It just, you need the crowd, you need the atmosphere, I think, and WWE didn't have that right at all. The Thunderdome's an improvement, but it's still not great. I think that's why AEW does so well. It's AEW does the Daily's Place and open air, so they can get away with a bit more as far as COVID having those crowds. I think it works. It's funny you say that. I did watch TLC. I haven't watched much of Raw or SmackDown this year, but I have watched the pay-per-views. I've kept on tabs of all the pay-per-views. I thought TLC was a good show, but yeah, killing the Fiend. I mean, obviously it's not going to kill him completely. I thought TLC was good, so I checked out Raw, and Alexa Bliss has pretty much hinted that the Fiend will come back. But yeah, I said on Twitter at the time, I was like, USA Network, apparently, there's rumors that USA Network were unhappy about the low ratings, and they go, okay, we need product darker, we need adult content. So I was like, USA Network, we need more adult content. WWE's like, I got you, fam. And then, burnt the Fiend to a crisp. Yeah, so again, I said that at the beginning of my stream, that the creative's hit and miss. I love writing and creative writing. I'd love to be on creative for WWE, be a writer. But then you see all the shit not the shit they come up with, because I feel like they come up with better shit than we see on TV. I think Vince takes stuff they write. Well, we notice if we've seen some shoot interviews, the writers will come up with stuff, and a lot of times it's good. And Vince will tear it up and put it in his own image. And that's when we get stuff like Rey Mysterio losing his eye, and the Fiend getting burnt. Brian Penny, yeah. So I was saying earlier too, my mum banned me from watching WWE as a kid in like the late 90s Attitude Era. I wasn't allowed to watch it after a certain time. And a lot of that was the Brian Penny matches. Mum's like, you can't watch that, you're too young. You can't see these women's with the exposed flesh and whatever. It's a different time though. I think it worked for the Attitude Era. I don't think it'll work now. We all have internet connections. We can go to the hub at a click of a button. I don't think people are gonna... I think people would like the Brian Penny's matches, but I think people wouldn't be as big a ratings getter. I think people would just be like, oh yeah, cool, they're in there, Brian Penny's. Alright, let's go and see some Lana Rhodes getting blacked. That's, it just wouldn't work the same as it did in the late 90s. Different society, different things we have access to. Yeah, so I got access to more wrestling, Raw and SmackDown, in like 2002. I had friends that would tape Raw and SmackDown for me. It was sort of the start of the Ruthless Aggression era, and just John Cena debuted and all that. Good old Ruthless Aggression, and yeah, we had still some edgy content, but it was a bit different. We had more wrestling, and I had friends that would tape it for me for, weeks. But I didn't get it every single week, so I got all the lead up to SummerSlam 2002. I remember watching all the Raws and SmackDowns leading up to that, and then getting SummerSlam. It was great. Dude, you went to Kane's debut. Damn, so you're OG as well. You've been... how old are you, man? That would have been a fucking amazing thing to be a part of Kane's debut. I still think it's the best debut of all time. Look, Chris Jericho is one of my favourite wrestlers, and he had an amazing debut, but I think Kane's beats it for sure. On the Jack Daniels tonight. It's Boxing Day here in Australia. I know you guys probably still Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas. 35. Okay, so you're a bit older than me. I'm 30, so yeah. And yeah, that would have been awesome. Kane's debut. See, being from Australia, I didn't get to go to a live WWE show for a long time. My first live show was in 2005. It was in Sydney. It was just a house show. 6 days after WrestleMania 21, Batista winning the world title. It was pretty cool, but house shows, not canon. So it was fun to be at. It didn't feel as big as going to an actual pay-per-view or show. My first live show was, as you might tell by the jersey, Wrestlemania 33. I won some money and I bought a VIP package for Wrestlemania 33. I did the whole experience, nice hotel, Hall of Fame, NXT TakeOver, Wrestlemania, and the Raw after Wrestlemania. That was the one where the Hardy Boys came back, which was a huge thing, and I was a huge Hardy Boys mark as a kid. I loved the Hardy Boys. So seeing them make their surprise return at WrestleMania was huge. And then we thought The Undertaker was retiring. Yeah, we know what happened there. And we don't get local pay-per-views. We had in 2002, we had the global warning tour. Not warning tour, yeah. So I didn't get to go to global warning in 2002. That was sort of a big pay-per-view. Even though it was like still kind of a house show, but they like recorded it and did commentary and put it on DVDs and stuff, and it's on the network now. It's a pretty loaded card, but it still wasn't canon really. So I missed that because we didn't have the money in 2002. I won the money in like 2017, and now my job's getting a bit more stable. So I'm hoping once COVID lifts and everything, I want to go back. I said WrestleMania was like a bucket list thing. I wanted to go to WrestleMania once, and then I went, and I'm like, this is amazing. I want to go a million more times. And yeah, the pop for Hardy's coming back. Like, watching it back, I watch it back on the network, probably once a year. Probably watch WrestleMania 33 back. Just, even though it wasn't probably the greatest Mania, being part of it made it more special to me. So I watch it back. On TV, the pop didn't do it justice. I watch it back and like, yeah, it sounds loud, but compared to actually being there, I went by myself. I went by myself overseas to America to WrestleMania. I've got no qualms traveling alone. So by myself, and I made friends with people around me because we're all there for the same reason. We're there for wrestling. And the guy next to me was from the UK. We got chatting. He bought me a few beers. And then when the Hardy Boys music hit and it came out, the place exploded. And this UK dude just jumped on me, hugged me, and like almost crash tackled me to the ground. I've got cerebral palsy, so my balance isn't good at the best of times. Then after a few beers and all the excitement, it's a miracle I stayed on my feet. But yeah, seeing the Hardys come back was amazing. It's a bit of a shame what happened to the Hardys after that, but on that one night, it was magic at WrestleMania. So, yeah. Have you been to any other pay-per-views or WWE, like, major shows? Because that was pretty much it. It was Mania and the whole Mania 33 weekend for me. And I did get to go to Super Showdown in Melbourne in 2018, which was cool, and it was a bit more important than Global Warming Tour was. At least we had some storylines going into it. Oh, shit. Dude, I am kind of jealous of that because I've gotten into NJPW in like recent years. For me, like obviously, the big moment for me with NJPW, I'd watch just shows here and there when they started adding English commentary. I think I was Wrestle Kingdom 9 or 10 was the first one I saw, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then I made more of an effort to get involved when Chris Jericho crossed over to NJPW. That's my all-time favourite, seeing him face Omega. And then I've kept tabs on it ever since. I really enjoy the in-ring product, especially for NJPW. Probably the best pure wrestling in the world that I've seen. And I really want to go to an NJPW show. They've toured Australia a couple of times, but again, house shows. I've been to both of those tours, but not the same as going to an actual pay-per-view like Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom. Which, yeah, Dominion, Kenny vs. Okada would have been fucking amazing to see live. When my first thing I was going to do before COVID hit, my plan was to save all this year 2020 and go to Japan for New Year's and Wrestle Kingdom. That was the plan, and then COVID just fucked that idea right up. So as soon as the world opens up again and we can all travel freely, I would I want to go to New Japan and experience one of their big shows. So yeah, what was Japan like besides wrestling? Like, how was Japan as a country? Because I really want to get an idea of what to expect going into it. If there's anything I need to know. So 1 second, I think glass is empty. Need a refill. 1 second. Alright, and we're back. I've got a tiny unit, so me going to get drinks and coming back, not going to take too long. Alright, so yeah, man. I do love sushi. I haven't had ramen much, but keen to try it. Yeah, and meek but friendly. Yeah, I can get along with that. I'm kind of introverted anyway, until like I get comfortable. I guess I'm kind of an ambivert in that way. I can be really outgoing once I hit that comfort level, but until then, I'm kind of closed up. So yeah, that'll be interesting going to Japan and seeing what that's like. Like going to America was easy. Everyone's outgoing and loud, and I made friends, and I got lost coming out of Orlando Stadium, the Citrus Bowl, trying to find my tour bus to get back to my hotel. We had a tour bus to take us to and from because it was the VIP thing. And I got lost, after midnight, and I was a bit tired and a few too many beers, and didn't have the best sense of direction. And I had a few American buddies find me, and they were pretty drunk as well. And they helped me out. Hey, brother, we'll come help you out. And they helped me find my bus and go back to the hotel fine. So that was cool. I find when everyone's there for the same purpose, everyone's there for the same thing, everyone's a lot more friendly. Happens with our concerts as well. I found I've been to a few concerts, especially like metal gigs, and everyone's real welcoming and friendly because we're all there for the same thing. We all have a shared passion, a shared interest, and people are cool. Even because it was Orlando, I went to Universal Studios as well. There was a ticket included in the VIP package, and I walked in like an AJ Styles t-shirt, and security guard sees me and he's like, "Hey, brother," and he gives me the old too sweet coming in the door, and I'm like, "This is like my first day in America." I got there late, went to sleep in a hotel, and then went to Universal the next day. So to instantly have like that coolness, made me feel way better about going, flying 16 hours and going across the other side of the world to see things. It was a cool feeling. And yeah, I found that too, the people being super supportive, especially now. The Australian wrestling scene is starting to come along pretty well. They broadcast online now. Obviously, we've got a bunch of wrestlers doing big things in WWE and elsewhere. Seeing Robbie Eagles in NJPW is awesome for me. When I first started following the Aussie wrestling scene in like 2014, 2015, he'd been wrestling a few years, but the Aussie wrestling scene wasn't what it is today. So, he'd wrestle in like bowling clubs and things in front of like 30 people. So to see him go from that to build up his profile to where he joins Bullet Club and Chaos and wrestles in the Tokyo Dome, like that's an awesome thing. It's like when you see, like, I think it was Metallica started as a garage band. So for them to start at that low level and then become the superstars they are, it's like seeing Metallica in the garage band days. To see Robbie Eagles in front of 30 people going to NJPW, facing people like Liger, and then, doing pretty well for himself before the pandemic, being in the Super Juniors. That's really cool to see. So being part of that community is cool because I talked to Robbie and he's always been the nicest dude. And so many people in the scene, whether it's wrestlers or fans, they've always been super nice and welcoming. And now that I write reviews, that's helped me even more to create that sort of camaraderie with different people. They're real supportive of my work as I am of theirs. And it's really cool. Buddy Murphy. I tell you what, Buddy Murphy had the best match at Super Showdown. Going to Super Showdown and being part of that show, he challenged Cedric Alexander for the Cruiserweight Championship. And Buddy's actually from Melbourne. So Australia's a really big country, right? I'm from around Sydney, about an hour south of Sydney. And Melbourne, down south. But Buddy's actually from Melbourne. So for him to go to his literally hometown, in this big stadium show, win the championship, it got the biggest reaction off the show probably, and it was the best match of the show. Like Buddy and Cedric killed it. That is awesome, crisp match. Some crazy spots. I think Cedric hit like a top rope Michinoku driver. I love his finisher, Murphy's Law. It's pretty cool. What do you think about the whole Murphy Aaliyah storyline? The whole, the Mysterios and Rollins and all that. What do you think about all that? Because I've seen there's been a bit of controversy about it, and we love a bit of controversy. Controversy creates cash. But what do you think about it all? Oh man, I think it's cool seeing someone be that high profile. Honestly, because coming from the Melbourne scene to just being on SmackDown and Raw regularly. Yeah, well, I don't know if you've caught SmackDown, but apparently I haven't watched it yet, but I saw a post about it. Apparently Seth is going to be back on next week's SmackDown for the start of the new year. So that's cool. Seth was taking a break because Becky had a kid. Seth and Becky together. Becky's had her kid. So I guess it was a bit of paternity leave. But he'll be back. But yeah, there was controversy about Murphy and Aaliyah because Aaliyah's 19 and Buddy's like 32 or something. And they're like, oh, it's age difference, that's not right. And then they're saying it's like grooming or pedo tendencies. I didn't really agree. I thought it was people being a bit too triggered. But, yeah, so what's this guy talking about? But yeah, I didn't think it was too much of a worry. Remember Kelly was around in the WWE's ECW and she was 19 and she was with Mike Knox and CM Punk. No one worried about that. But now Murphy's with Aaliyah and it's like, oh, you can't do that. That's a bit wrong. Yeah, so yeah, they are both adults. Me personally, and you might agree, being similar age, I wouldn't date someone that young. But if someone is, they're adults. You do you kind of thing. I've tried to date younger people and it doesn't work. I remember, I don't know, I think people have told me I can be a dickhead sometimes, don't get me wrong, but people have told me I can be pretty mature, and they've often guessed me being older age based on how I act. Based on how I look, people have guessed me as younger, but when I talk to people, they think I'm older because how I act, generally. But, yeah, I've tried to date people when I was about 26, 27, I tried to date a 19-year-old. And it just didn't work. We were in two different places in life. She wanted to, she wanted to be constantly texting me and things. Yeah, OP, man. Yeah, I'm okay. How you doing, man? I do not do porn. I don't get laid often enough to do porn. But yeah, seeing Murphy do just on TV regularly is pretty cool. I enjoy the fact that see someone come up that's started in the Melbourne scene. He actually, I remember seeing, I went to the Melbourne City Wrestling show. They had a big show the night before Super Showdown. And Murphy's best friend in real life, Adam Brooks, was on the MCW show. And I remember seeing Murphy. He was actually there at the show. He sat up in the balcony, and he watched his friend win the title. And then the next night, the roles were reversed. We're all in the MCG, and we watched Murphy win the title. So that was a cool little thing. And yeah, generation gap, and not even, I don't think generation gap as well. Like, yes, generation gap, but also there's just life experiences. You know, I find I've done different things that someone 5 years younger than me might have not done. It's not quite a different generation, but it's enough difference to be like, okay, you're still living at home and you don't really have a job and that, whereas I've been out and seen the world and got my own place and got a job. It's just different perspectives on life, you know. But yeah, seeing Aussie people doing their thing, and you know, seeing those relationships pay off when you see them come up and have success, it's really a cool feeling. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it continues to happen. Like, you can watch the shows live online. My main local one, PWA, which sees, that's where Robbie Eagle's home base is. He does a lot of things like that. He started in PWA, he's like a head trainer there, and now he's in NJPW, so it sort of speaks to what we can do. For work, so I work as a teacher. I work on a casual basis because I have a disability, cerebral palsy, so physically can't work full time, but qualified teacher, and I go in as much as I can. And I teach all grades. Kindergarten to year 6 is what I'm trained in, primary school teaching or elementary school teaching. But I've also worked in high school. I learned on the job. Did maths teaching for a term. It was a full-time contract, and I just couldn't really manage that. So I struggled. I struggled with the physical day-to-day grind of going in, and I had to drive a long way too, and yeah, it was just a bit too much to physically handle, and so I did the term and left. And then I went to Wrestlemania, which was funny because I was on death's door basically and falling apart, but I'd already paid for this Wrestlemania trip, so damn it, I'm going to do it. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's funny as far as speaking goes, because I've always had trouble with being speaking too quickly. I get excited and I talk too fast. So let me know if I mumble or talk too fast and you can't understand me, and I'll slow down. I've worked on it over the years, but every once in a while I get too excited and I start spitting like rap god, blah, 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 and people don't understand. It's one of those things where sometimes they smile and laugh, and I've said something serious. It's like, oh, my aunt just died, and they're like, ah. I'm like, no, okay, they didn't know what I said, so it's always a trouble. So I've worked on it. Hopefully, you can understand me fairly well, and it's all good. Yeah, so. So have you met many wrestlers? I've had some great experiences with wrestlers and things, and I've had some not so great experiences. So yeah, let me know what your experiences are, like meeting wrestlers, and the good, the bad, the ugly. Because I feel like it's one of those weird things where, and I think celebrities of all kinds, it's a struggle because you put them up on a pedestal, but I think ultimately they're just people. But it doesn't stop you from fully fanboying out, I don't think. It's always kind of, you get excited, you get hype. So, yeah, have you met anyone? I have, the main one for me, Chris Jericho, is my all-time favourite. I met him, and he was amazing, lived up to the billing. He was such a cool dude. It was a WrestleMania Access VIP signing thing, and I noticed going to those events, it's like a conveyor belt. It's like cattle, in and out. Okay, get your picture, get your thing signed, go. But because it was Jericho, I'm like, alright, I want to try and have a conversation with him. Even if I only get 30 seconds or a minute with him, let's try and chat. And he totally engaged me in conversation, and, this Crudy eventually were like, okay, you got to move along. So I'm like, alright, cool. I wasn't going to I wasn't going to make a scene, but I'm like, I want to chat to him as much as I can, and he was real cool. And I talked about, because I'm a writer, he had a competition going a while back where he submitted a foreword. He offered people to submit a foreword for his book. And so I tried to do that. I didn't get it. I was very salty I didn't get it. But then I read the one that actually won, and it was pretty good. I think it was like his third book. He offered the foreword. It was well written, so couldn't hate. Randy Orton. Okay, so are you from his area? Yeah, I've heard Randy Orton's a funny one. I haven't met Randy Orton, but you hear stories, and like I've heard both sides of the coin. I've heard he can be a dick. I've heard he can be really nice, but I suppose it depends how you approach him. I guess if you're cool, he's cool, kind of thing. St. Louis, nice. That's isn't that like a bit of a hotbed for wrestling? I'm sure. I remember like back maybe towards the 80s, I think there was no big wrestling scene in St. Louis or around that general area. It's sad. I kind of know American geography a little bit better than Australian geography half the time, just from, wrestling. I know a lot of names of towns, and, I know it's St. Louis, Missouri and all that. Whereas you could tell me about a place in, Western Australia, and I might not know it. Local shows, nice. So it's always good to go to those. Like I know they're not as big scale as WWE, but they they generally, you might see stars of the future. Oh, okay, so you've trained to wrestle. Do you still wrestle now, or do you is there something you sort of dabble in, or that's really cool. I'm friends with a guy that has a wrestling school. I thought about seeing if he'd let me come in and do a few bumps, but I don't think he would. He knows I'm disabled and knows I probably couldn't physically do it, and if something went wrong, like, not that I would sue him, but he might not want a bad press. Dynamo Pro Wrestling. I have to check that out. That'll be always, the more I can know, the more is better. Alright, so 6 years. Shit, okay. So you started a little bit late then. Started like 28, 29. God, I hope it's not, for your sake, I hope it's not a midlife crisis, because, midlife, 29, you don't want to die at like 58, dude. I know wrestlers die young, but, you don't want, you don't want 28, 29 to be your midlife. So what's your day job? Wrestling didn't kind of work out. What do you do for a living normally? Are you still working? Oh, actually, yeah, I just realised pandemic, are you still working? Like, I've known that's affected a lot of people too. Like, some people that were working before aren't anymore. Ah, CBD business. Okay, so is it all legal over there now? I've heard different things. Like, it's legal in some states and not in others. Some places it's legal for medicinal use. Some places it's legal for recreational use. It's still, Australia's still in the dark ages as far as that goes. It's not legal here at all, except in I want to say California. No, I mean it is legal in California, but in Australia it's legal in Canberra, which is the Australian Capital Territory, which is like where all the politicians are based. So our Parliament House, our whole main federal government is based in Canberra in the ACT. And that's the only place where weed is legal in Australia, and CBD and all that is legal in Australia. Just so the politicians' sons don't get busted for possession and shit, Yeah. So CBD is like, they take out the active ingredient of THC, and it's just, yeah. Because I always worry, because I feel like that would be great for pain for me, but the legalities of it I worry about. I mean, honestly, alcohol's legal, and I think alcohol is a way bigger problem than marijuana, completely. Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I thought that might have been legal in Canada because Canada seems to do all right, but they legalized it and it printed money for them. That's interesting because I think one of the knockbacks for not legalizing it is they're worried about how much it's going to affect the big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry. If they legalize weed, then I know from experience that it's an amazing painkiller, but it's not legal. So, but if weed was legal, then we wouldn't need half the painkillers and half the pain medication we have. So, it would make that, irrelevant. But if it turned out to be a moneymaker, then, that's interesting because there's a lot of overlap with Canada and Australia. So you'd think the Australian government should see Canada and go, oh, okay, well, they're printing money, so maybe we should give this a go. I think it'll happen eventually, but it's a slow process. It's like anything in society, change takes time. So it's always a problem trying to enact that change. Yeah, 100%. They call it a gateway drug. That's I'll be honest, like, don't care if anything happens of it, really, but I've smoked on and off through the years, and they call it a gateway drug, and it's not. I have no urge to take any harder drugs. It's just, I meet some people that are cool. They say, hey man, you want a joint or whatever? Yep, cool. Doesn't make me want to go out and start doing cocaine and ice and all that sort of shit and going off my head. But I suppose everyone's different. But the assumption that okay, we can legalize all this alcohol and tobacco, but weed we can't do, it doesn't make sense. And I think it's just financially motivated. I don't think it's from a genuine need or desire to help people. But yeah, I asked about their fan experiences because Jericho was obviously awesome. Robbie Eagles was always awesome. He knows me by name, which is pretty cool. And I met Nikki Bella at Wrestlemania Access, and she was another cool one to meet. I'm not a huge Nikki Bella fan, but the way Access works is that you get to go in 4-hour blocks. So if I chose Jericho and Nikki Bella on the same day, I could spend my entire day at Access. So I did that. I met Jericho first, and then I met Nikki. And Nikki was super nice, and I went up. She's like, how's it going, stud? And I was like, I know you say this to everyone, but as an attention-starved single dude, I enjoyed that. So she gave me that hug and got a photo and that. So she was real nice. And but then I met a few others that weren't so nice. It wasn't that they were mean or that they were dicks. They just didn't really engage. Like I was in line because they've got your VIP ones, which are your bigger name stars normally. Then you got sort of your mid card or upper mid card names that are just free as part of the access experience. But obviously you've got to wait for ages in lines, like 2-hour lines. So I was waiting in this line, and it was for the bars for Cesaro and Sheamus. They were still a tag team at the time, and I was in line, and I was about to meet Cesaro and Sheamus, and then their time was up, and they swapped. So I was like, oh shit, I've missed out on meeting Cesaro and Sheamus. I wonder who we're gonna get next. And it was Mick Foley, and I was like, I was not expecting that. Like, that was a huge upgrade for me from the bar to Mick Foley. Like, fuck yeah, I love Mick Foley. The 98 Hell in a Cell was one of my earliest childhood memories of wrestling. And I'm like, oh, he's first in line. I'm the first one he's going to meet. He's going to be real, friendly and all this. And he just kind of was like, he just didn't want to be there. And I'm like, hey man, how's it going? And he kind of, have a nice day, yeah. And got the photo. The photo looks good, but he was just so switched off. And it might, he's been through the grind. That was when he just finished being the Raw GM. And you could see walking up, I mean, I don't know what he's normally like, but I could see walking, he was in a shitload of pain. And we had security guards were, all around the venue. And the security guard on this particular line for the bar / Mick Foley didn't follow wrestling. So she was kind of looking at Mick Foley with his beard and everything and his kind of scraggly clothes. And she goes, I don't get why this guy's famous. He looks like a clown. And we're kind of biting our tongue because we don't want to get kicked out of line. But we're like, okay, this is why he's famous. And we pulled up a YouTube video of him getting thrown off the Hell in a Cell. And she's like, oh, that's why he walks like that. Because he was limping along real bad. He was limping worse than I. Because I walk with a limp with my SCP. But Foley was limping worse than me. And I'm like, oh, he's in a lot of pain. So could be the pain. Could be he was just tired. He's come off a long touring schedule. But it was a little disappointing as a fan for him to be so switched off. Same with, I met AJ Styles. I paid for a lot of VIPs. So AJ Styles was a VIP. And Kurt Angle as well. Kurt Angle's a VIP. And both of them were just kind of like, yeah, not there. Quick take the photo. Yep. See ya. But yeah, Jericho and Nikki Bella, those things were great. Finn Balor was out there. He was had the Elimination Chamber exhibit, and he was there. It was one of those things where they had the exhibit and they had people signing in there through a few days. I was at Access. I ended up going for like 3 to 4 days. It was on, and I had all these random mid card people in there. I had like I think Ivory and Jacqueline, people like that in there. Like Jimmy Hart might have been there or something like that. And then I saw everyone just running for the Elimination Chamber exhibit. And I asked one of the security guards, and unlike the other one, this guy asked, he was in the know, who knew what was going on. I was like, why are all these people rushing to the chamber? And he goes, oh, Finn Balor is signing there. Oh, sweet. I'll join the line, because at the time, Finn Balor was off on injury. He'd won the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, and he went down to a shoulder injury, but he was at Access. So I went, sweet, joined in line for Finn Balor. And I noticed it was a massive line again, another 2 hours, probably took long, like 2.5, close to 3 hours. And Finn Balor's in there getting all his not signatures, it was just photo op this one, but it was photo op in the chamber, and his smile never wavered once. Like Finn Balor is super pleasant with everyone for like close to 3 hours. Big smile, big too sweet, all that stuff. Friendliest dude you'll see, and tons of respect for him for doing that and doing it so classily and so positive. That was a cool experience in that. Like, he didn't say much really. I said like, hope to see you back soon. As it turned out, he came back the next night or 2 nights later on Raw. But yeah, class act all the way. Foley vs Funk would be one of my favourite hardcore matches. Ooh. Okay, so this is where I need a little history lesson or what hardcore match did they have, because I know they had like a match on Raw that I've seen, but I'm sure they had others in like ECW or Japan that I'm not really aware of. Yeah, 100%. A-grade professional. To be that switched on. It was, as much as when it comes to wrestlers, I prefer watching in the ring. I love AJ Styles and Kurt Angle and Foley probably more than Finn Balor, but I gained a lot of respect for him that day for being that switched on and that courteous to the fans. Also, I had a great experience at a House of Hardcore show. They toured in Sydney, and of course, you get a few ex-WWE guys on Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore, and I met the Spirit Squad. It was Kenny and Mikey from the Spirit Squad. And I met them, and I was with a friend of mine who works on the Aussie indie wrestling scene. So she knows them, and she's like personal contact with them, has their numbers. So we met them and we chatted, and then after we left, my friend Nikki shared me a message, and she goes, that Kenny has said your friends are super nice, like really, really nice. And I'm like, that was cool to kind of make a positive impression on, a wrestler, and for them to actually enjoy our company, which was real nice. So in Japan, explosive deathmatch. I've seen clips of it. I've seen like clips in like Cactus Jack highlight videos when they had the match with like Triple H and Randy Orton, but I've never actually seen the full match. I'm gonna have to go scrape that out on YouTube, because they're the kind of things that are legend, but I didn't think the full matches were available, so I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I've got to expand my scope. So I've always been WWE. Through the network, I watch a bit of WCW, ECW. I've watched AEW since the beginning, and that's always been fun. That's always been a different style of presentation, and I like what they're doing now. The crossover with Impact Wrestling. I haven't watched Impact for like 10 years, but when Kenny Omega got involved with Impact and sort of crossed over, I thought, okay, I'll check this out. I'll see what they're doing. Because, I mean, if AEW were going to do this crossover, you would think it would be worthwhile. Oh, shit, Ospreay. Yeah, how did I forget Ospreay? I've met Ospreay too. He came to Sydney show and he wrestled in the main event, and he's wrestled Robbie Eagles a couple of times on Sydney shows too. But he was super nice. I've actually I met him, and I met him while he was the NJPW junior heavyweight champion, and I got to hold his belt. So that was the only legitimate belt I've ever held, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, 100%. It is a bit like the old territories, and that's one of those things that I've only heard about in passing, kind of. I caught like the tail end of when I started watching in the Attitude Era. There was a little bit of an NWA crossover where Jim Cornette brought in Rock and Roll Express for like a couple of sort of one-shot deals and all that kind of thing. But I largely missed the territory days. I've mostly heard about them in documentaries and little snippets here and there. So to kind of see it have a revival and come around again it's a super awesome thing. So hopefully that continues a lot more and goes on for a long time to come. But yeah, it's getting kind of late here, so I'm probably going to call it here. I really appreciate you stopping by, man. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. I'm trying to experiment with different ways of sort of streaming on Twitch. So sometimes I do video games. I did a bit of karaoke the other night. This is my first Just Chatting stream because I love pro wrestling and that, so I figured that was an awesome topic to start on. I'll probably do some more again. There's a few topics I didn't get to tonight that I had planned, but honestly I'm pretty tired. It's been a busy few days. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope to see you again, so thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it, man. You take it easy. Alright, see ya.